Yeah, you're really. Scott is on a 3-week, I think, RV trip. I don't
Oh,
want. I think he's someplace in California, but I couldn't swear to that. And
oh,
Dave, you were supposed to be on a trip. What happened?
I went on a trip.
Oh,
and
you're
we
back
came
already.
back a little bit early for family reason.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's good to see. Good to be back, and I'm glad we got Hagen, because you saw Hagen's little scrap of paper with the the solution to the universal problems. Hagen, can you? Are you okay for? Does your mic work or anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd prefer not to become on camera. That's right. But
That's
yeah.
all right. That's okay. I think we could probably, where do we want to start? I missed so much of last week. I guess maybe, Dave, do you want to start, and then Hagen can start expressing what he's sent us?
Right. So the job was to calculate the offset position of a star due to parallax. So as the Earth goes around the sun, the apparent position of the star moves relative to what we call the background stars, relative to infinity. And I need to have a formula that, given say the position of the sun in RA and DEC and the position of the star in RA and DEC, how much does that star move and in what direction?
Okay.
given the position of the star measured from the sun, is that correct?
The heliocentric, the Gaia position, which is a heliocentric position.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And since we have Gaia distances now, that becomes a more realistic problem to solve, right?
Right.
Yeah. And Hagen, you sort of gave us the answer, right?
Yeah. A pretty good approximation at least.
Can you
and
share a
basically
screen? Could you show us?
Yeah.
Yeah, show us your screen and explain your math there.
Let me show I might do like a whiteboard.
Okay.
Oh.
Let me see, I'll give you permission. I don't know what. Let me think, what can
This
we
is not working.
I don't know how, does anyone know how a whiteboard works on?
You can open one. Here we go.
Like this.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
of-
Wonderful.
I see a white.
Y'all should be able to draw on that if you click the
Yeah.
annotate button.
Anybody should be able to draw on it.
Yeah.
Oh, why is my mouse not working?
Let me see here. Do I have to do anything?
Love all the Zoom tech.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Okay, I think that works. So, all right, basically, before I start drawing, the very first thing that you want to do is convert everything into ecliptic coordinates, where your RA and DEC is relative to the ecliptic and the plane of the solar system rather than the celestial coordinates, because that's going to make the math significantly simpler. If that makes sense. I don't want to think about doing this problem with just RA and DEC by itself. So the conversion for that, basically, you can write out this matrix. It looks like, so let's say that the declination in RA are delta and alpha, right? Then we can write out something that looks like sorry, I'm trying to draw here.
Is that's not showing up for me, but maybe.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
Do we see what I'm drawing?
No, I don't think so.
Huh, that's weird. I said I'm sharing this.
Do you guys see
Oh.
that?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
now we
saw
see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's from
All
me.
right.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
that's
don't
really-
actually. I'm trying to draw this with my mouse.
Oh, Would it help if you shared the whiteboard?
Yeah, we could try doing that.
Yeah, maybe that works then.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see that now.
No, I don't.
Oh, now it's gone.
Oh, sorry, I just closed it. I thought you weren't saying anything. My sweeper's still there. There we go.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, what's it? So delta is delta is RA and alpha is DEC.
Delta is the declination, alpha the right ascension, and then we
Okay.
convert those into theta and phi. Do you pronounce it phi or phi?
Okay. I don't know.
Phi full thumb.
I'm gonna say phi, but it doesn't matter. Where basically theta is like the ecliptic equivalent of declination, and phi is like the ecliptic equivalent of right ascension, right? So then we just have this matrix.
And so the matrix on, wait, what's epsilon?
Yeah, what's up?
5 degrees.
Oh, sorry, say that again.
Epsilon is just the obliquity of the Earth, 23.5 degrees.
Oh, okay.
And I was done writing this out.
And that, oh, I see. So the matrix with the epsilons conversion between
Yeah.
RA and DEC normal and RA and DEC relative to ecliptic coordinates.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So you want to go from delta and alpha to theta and phi, then you can just invert the matrix to convert back. So, yeah. And it's not just a linear transformation from delta and alpha to theta and phi. You have to do this thing with cosines and sines, then solve for it in reverse. But I'm guessing you can figure out how to do that. I just found this on the internet, honestly.
You're making some assumptions here, but that's okay.
Okay.
You're assuming. So wait, okay. All right. I can look up conversion to ecliptic coordinates too, I guess.
That sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. So now that we have that, I'm going to actually draw the diagram with the star. So here's the sun, here's the earth. And somewhere way out here is going to be our star. We're going to assume it's much further than 1 AU away, so we can do small angle approximations. And let's draw a line from the sun to the star and a line from the earth to the star. And then we can also kind of imagine taking this and sort of projecting it down onto the ecliptic plane.
Oh, that's what.
So we
that
can
was.
draw. So we can draw lines that are sort of on the ecliptic plane, just projected down. And obviously this distance is going to be 1 AU. And this angle is just the parallax of the star, which I'll call P, and we know it. And so we basically have a geometry problem. So this angle right here is just theta measured from the sun. And this angle is just phi measured from the sun. And if we can imagine drawing the same angles on the earth, essentially, then this would be phi measured from the earth, which I'll call phi prime. And this is going to be theta measured from the earth, which I'll call theta prime. And what we want to do is we want to convert from theta to theta prime, and we want to convert from phi to phi prime. And from here on out, it's basically just a whole lot of geometry. So I'm going to spare you the details and just tell you what the answer is, if that works.
Definitely. But hang on. So, and then following that step though, once you do that conversion, you would need to convert back to.
Yeah, you need to convert back.
Delta and alpha. Wait, and
just
that
by-
uses the inverse of the matrix with the epsilons?
Yep.
Okay. Oops, sorry.
Exactly.
You guys-
All right. So there's one more angle that we need to have, which is the elongation of the star. I'll call it E. It's just this angle right here, which is just the difference in the ecliptic right ascension coordinate between the star and the sun. And that's going to go into the formula as well. So it ends up being a pretty simple answer, which is phi prime equals phi plus P, the parallax, sine of E, the elongation, times cosine of theta. And for theta prime, the formula is a bit more complicated because the formula I actually have in terms of tangent of theta equals tangent of theta times, this is outside the parentheses, 1 minus P cosine of E divided by cosine of theta. So do you guys see those?
Yeah, what's E one more time?
E is just the elongation of the star, which is just the difference in the ecliptic right ascension coordinate between the star and the sun.
E is the difference.
So E plus V is 180.
E plus P, you mean?
Phi. No, phi.
uh,
Phi.
Oh, phi. E plus phi. Well, it would only be 180 at the vernal equinox because that's when the sun is in the right
Okay.
direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been misleading how to do the line. Sorry.
Right.
Okay, so, okay. So process for, so in order to take this and get delta RA delta det, which would be delta delta and delta alpha in
Yeah.
this notation.
Yeah.
Right, because that's, okay, so you, all right, hang on. So you take the matrix on the far right, you multiply by the matrix with the epsilons. And
And then
then,
that gives you
you,
cos theta, cos phi, cos theta, sine theta. And then from that, you can solve for phi and theta.
and then solve for phi, wait. Then solve, wait. But why would you solve for phi and theta there? Don't you wanna,
Because you need to plug them into the formula below it, the one that put in the box.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you solve for, oh goodness, sorry for this truck going by outside my house. So you solve for phi and theta here in terms of delta, alpha, and epsilon. So you have some
Yes.
expression for phi and theta in terms of delta, alpha, and epsilon. And
Yep.
then you put that expression in to get phi prime and theta prime. Okay. And
And then you plug those back in, invert the matrix, and get delta prime and alpha prime.
plug those back in where?
To the vector with theta and phi on the left.
Okay. Okay. But wait, where's the part where we get the delta, and delta alpha? That's,
Well,
I think, what I'm.
you don't explicitly get the delta. You plug in delta and alpha and get a new delta and a new alpha that are different by that delta.
And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then you can subtract to get the delta.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. I sort of see the process resting on the matrix math.
Yeah.
But I kind of see like sort of the idea.
Yeah.
Let me add a little bit. Very nice, Hagen. I think that's 100% credit. So this is the X and Y and Z coordinates on a unit sphere of the direction of the star in
Yep.
normal RA and DEC coordinates, where the North Pole is the Z direction, straight up.
Yeah.
X and so forth. So this transformation, cos delta, cos alpha, and so forth,
Yes.
that just turns delta and alpha angles into X, Y, and Z coordinates.
Yeah.
Now we rotate that coordinate system so that the ecliptic is now in the XY plane.
That's exactly it.
And and so X doesn't change. It's got a 1 here, but Y and Z are mixed because of the rotation.
Yes.
That gives you could just call this X prime, Y prime, and Z prime. That's the
Yeah,
X, Y,
exactly.
and Z coordinates in our rotated coordinate system, right? And then the only I have to I think dock off maybe 5 points because this is not the parallactic angle. I think it's half the parallactic angle, isn't it?
Which one?
The P.
Oh,
Because
fair.
the parallactic angle, isn't it the entire angle across the entire Earth's orbit?
Yeah, you're right. I forgot
Isn't
about that.
P over 2? So should I give you half credit?
Sure. I fixed that.
But very close. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think that's half of the parallactic angle. Yep. And then this looks correct to me, although I'd have to actually go and do the trigonometry.
Yeah.
We could also do this in X, Y, Z coordinates too.
Yeah.
So,
for
you know,
sure.
it's probably easier to do it just leaving it X, Y, and Z. But very nice. That's exactly how it's done.
Yeah.
Now, the astronomers in the 17th and 18th century, they would have actually written it out and never have spoken of X, Y, and Z. And you would have this enormously complicated trigonometric formula that was completely non-understandable, but it's the same thing. So very nice.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad this is being recorded. I think I'm gonna need to watch it a few more times. But that was helpful to see you draw all the diagrams of it.
Yeah. Also, one last thing, the approximation does break down if the star is very close to the ecliptic pole. So, yeah.
Yeah, as there's a singularity always.
Yeah.
And that's, if you leave everything in X, Y, and Z coordinates, you don't get that singularity, which is what we usually do. Okay, great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I did figure out how to make it work in finite theta coordinates, but it's just a really complicated expression, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, Dave, you'll have the solution next week?
I don't know. I drove from Eureka to Los Angeles in one day yesterday, so I'm a little bit fuzzy.
So
yeah.
this could be applied to, so right now, for Hagen, right now, what we're like the sort of ultimate goal, and tell me if I'm wrong in summarizing this, the ultimate goal is to have, to be able to take images of a star field, and we have one that we're all kind of imaging. Most people with telescopes that they have, me with LCO, because those are the ones I can see, and images of the same star field, if they're able to be plate solved precisely enough, which is what this is in the service of, would potentially be able to have stars that are making very small orbital motions around dim or invisible companions, be able to tell that those motions were happening by just scanning through all the stars in the star field in a series taken over time. And so the precision needed has been kind of a sort of the subject of all the meetings so far, because it needs to be extremely precise, both the images themselves, which was the focus of most of the meetings up until now, like figuring out what kinds of cameras and telescopes would be able to have high signal to noise enough to be able to do that. But then then I think that is more or less figured out. Am I correct about that? Like at least we know what kinds of telescopes are needed and what kinds of images and exposures and whatnot to get the standard error of mean position of each star over across the series down very low. And Dave has his own plate solution code that he's written. So we're able to, so he has it precise enough within 30 milliarc seconds, right? Am I right? That the 30 milliarc seconds is the standard error of mean position of the stars used in the plate solution across an image series that was taken over the course of several hours. Tell me if I'm saying wrong stuff.
Let me give you a brief synopsis. Other people have joined us, so let me give you the whole picture as briefly as possible. The science is that when we have a double star, the star can be rotating around, say, something very heavy that we can't see very well. Let's say it's a black hole, neutron star, dwarf star, whatever. And so as the luminous component goes around the relatively stationary, heavy, non-luminous guy, then the photo center changes. The photo center will wobble back and forth. In other words, the centroid of the image where the photons are coming from will look like it's moving back and forth in time. And for interesting candidates out to, say, several hundred parsecs, that photocenter motion can be as much as hundreds of milliarc seconds, even, tens to hundreds of milliarc seconds. We would love to look for that because it's one of the only ways really to discover new stuff, I think. It doesn't replace radial velocity, Doppler shift measurements, spectral Doppler shift measurements. That's a nice way of doing it, but this can uncover this is a nice way perhaps to uncover other objects, especially if they're more or less in the plane of where we'd like them to be anyway, I think. If they're in the tangent plane, normal to the tangent, normal to the vector, from us to the pair, if they're going around like that, there's no radial velocity shift, and so forth. And radial velocity measurements are time consuming also and very difficult, so that we may have a scientific, we might have a nice technique to do a little bit of science, and who knows what'll come up. So how do you measure the photocenter shift? Well, you take images weekly or monthly or yearly of a particular star field, and you can search then for stuff that moves over time. So to do that, you need to be able to very precisely measure the position of the photocenter. In other words, what we call the centroid in an image. And let me share my screen, bring everybody up to date. Find my mouse, there we go. So there you all are again. Yeah, so let's do, I guess I gotta move that over to here. Right. That's an always on top screen. All right. So I have a telescope in Chile at my disposal. It's a CDK 24, and Leon and I have been taking images with it. And for instance, here's a image I'll just bring up so we all get on the same page. And go to full screen. Let's bump up the brightness a bit. So there's a typical image from the CDK 24. It's been dark subtracted, but it hasn't been flat fielded yet because we don't have good flats yet. So if I go in and take a look at a star, bump down the brightness a bit. There we go. So even though it's this elongated thing, I mean, that's what happens when you image. You never get anything perfect, but you can calculate the centroid of that star in pixel coordinates, right? And it has to be done carefully, but I think I know how to do that. At least I'm certainly refining that. And out pop, and if you plate solve that and you use Gaia stars, so let's plate solve it. And we'll just plate solve that. There we go. And there's the plate solution. The thing that has crosses, circles, and X's and so forth are the stars that have been found in a catalog. And I have the complete Gaia catalog, so I can actually measure that star's position on the plate relative to the Gaia position of the star, and that would be in RA and DEC.
Dave, you're using plate solve 366. Is that the Gaia version or is that the UCAC 4 version?
This is the UCAC 4 version, but I have a version that
Yeah.
does it with plate solve stars.
Okay, right.
Yeah, the software is long and difficult to write, and I'm kind of bringing things up as we go. It'll eventually be nice and coherent. It's getting there, but it's not quite completely done, fully cooked yet. Okay. So I run the plate solve. I run plate solve on that. Where are we here? So here's a particular field. It's been plate solved. And when I plate solve it, I create a CSV file that I'll show you. It has all of the stars that it found in a bunch of them. I don't know how many. Has all of the stars that it found. And if this number isn't -1, it actually matched it to a catalog. And it also matched it to a Gaia catalog star. Okay, so there's a bunch of stars. And what's contained in this Excel sheet is the X centroid, the Y centroid, the calculated RA and DEC of that centroid position based on Gaia, and the total signal averaged. Oh, sorry, this is the total signal for that image, the max, because we want to know if it's saturated. If it's saturated, then we probably want to get rid of it. And so forth. The diameter, the signal to noise ratio, an aspect ratio, which is, I think, going to be important in a bit, and background information and so forth. And my own designation for the Gaia star. Okay. But when you have RA and DEC, you've got everything, because you can go look up stuff, in a catalog if you want to actually find the big, long, weird Gaia designation for it. Okay. After doing that, so what I do is I take 30 images of that same star field in sequence. Each image is 30 seconds long. And then I process those 30 images into what I call an observation. So let's go look at an observation. Here's an observation. That observation is now the average of the statistical behavior of those 30 images for each star that I've identified in each image. So of course there's an average Julian date, average air mass, and so forth. A bunch of statistics about the kind of the average conditions of this ensemble of 30 images, right? And then for each star that I identified, the number of images I used in the averaging or calculating statistics, it's average RA and DEC in radians. So it's a big,
Hey, Dave,
yeah,
can I ask a question?
of course.
We've done 30 plate solves on this sequence of images. And each plate solve could employ a different subset of the stars in the image to generate the mapping. Are you holding that set of stars the same over the 30 sub-images, or is it possible that some of the sub-images used a different subset of stars for the plate solution?
So at this moment in time, I'm not controlling the stars that are used in the final fit to the catalog, but that's the next step.
Okay.
So I'll discuss that in just a sec. That
Yep.
is a good question. So for this particular star, and by the way, I've tossed a bunch of stars out of this solution already, and I probably should bring up plate solved. This is the latest version. So this is kind of important, and it goes along with your question, Scott. So you can pick a folder containing the individual plate solve solutions for each image, and then you can select or use a number of parameters here to throw out stars that you're not interested in using for various reasons. So if they're saturated, you can reject them. You can only use stars that are within a circle. You know, the image is, say, this rectangle, and you know, maybe you only want to use stars that are within that circle because the corners have a lot of problems, optical aberration, vignetting, and so forth. You can toss outliers. We'll eventually talk about that and why it's a good idea or what this value should be. You can toss them if they have less than some minimum SNR, signal to noise ratio. And you can toss them if they have an occurrence of less than some percentage of the images. So at this point, we are kind of, we're throwing away plate solve stars for the final fit that we don't like for various reasons. We have to precess, we have to use proper motion to get the exact Gaia position because the stars move. And over a period of 6 years, they can move quite a lot. And then I can do some other tricks, which I won't describe right now. It's not worth the trouble. And I'm going to do eventually a bipolynomial fit between the centroids and the Gaia position of the stars projected onto the tangent plane, like we always do. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing. And the first step in that is to accumulate what happened to my spreadsheet? This is the first step in that process. The first step is to accumulate all of the information from the first plate solve solution for each of the Gaia stars. So this is already quite interesting. The main thing to look at here is the SEMP. That stands for the standard error in the mean position. And this is a number in milliarcseconds. So this is a purely, this doesn't take into account systematic errors that might occur night to night and so forth. This is for this group of 30 images, which I lump together and call a single observation. For this single observation, this tells us the statistical error, the statistical effect of noise, basically, on the position, the measured position of the star on the plate, on the images, the plates. So you can see here that for this 24-inch telescope in Chile, which is at about 5,000 feet elevation, it's a good telescope. The seeing conditions are usually fairly good, although it's winter there and they're not great right now. We're averaging an arc second and a half to 2.5, 1.5 to 2.5 arc second seeing at this moment. In the summer, it'll be sub arc second, I'm told. So I calculate the standard error in the mean position for each star that I've identified in the image, this big long list. And I've tossed out from this list all of the things that I just showed you. I tossed out saturated stars and blah, blah, blah. And I get an average SEMP of 4.6 milliarc seconds. So if I'm looking for photocenter motion around the thing, then I haven't refitted this information based on this list of stars yet. I'm doing that right now. So it should get better, and I don't know how much better it's going to get when I've thrown away all of the stuff in the image that I don't want. This should get better, obviously. But at the moment, it's about 5 milliarc seconds, which means that I should be able to, if there were no other systematic errors, and there can be a lot of systematic errors, but if it was based solely on noise, characteristics of the image and photon shot noise, camera read noise, and the other stuff, the other normal noise like stuff, then I should be able to measure the position of the star in a self-consistent way using the Gaia catalog to about 5 milliarc seconds RMS position. So that's pretty good if you're looking for 100 milliarc second motion or something. That should be quite useful. So where am I with the software? What I'm doing now is I'm writing the code that uses this new list of stars to refit the positions using only good Gaia, stars in my image. So go back to here, go back to the image itself. I'm throwing away stuff that's like in the corners. Let's find, because in the corners, let's get rid of the iconology. In the corners, you can get odd shapes and you can get optical aberrations, and there's vignetting in the corners and so forth. So I'm throwing away, here's the full image. Bump up the brightness a bit. You can see the vignetting pretty clearly at very high stretch. And there's vignetting here due to the pickoff mirror in the auto guider, which is unfortunate. I don't like that, but it's what you get. So I'm throwing away stars basically that are outside of this. You can see kind of the outline of the serious vignetting starts there. And I'm throwing away stars that have low SNR or saturated and all that stuff. I can also throw away plate solve stars that are weird in the sense that they have high elongation or other undesirable characteristics. In other words, I want to boil the list down to the best possible plate solve stars. And in my images, in a relatively normal part of the sky, nothing special, not in the Milky Way, I can get about 100 plate solve stars that satisfy the criteria. Now, what's the next step? Well, something very interesting happened when I looked in detail at this business of selecting plate solve stars. So let me see if I can describe what that is. This is 366. There we go. So when I was looking at what happens when I do this interesting stuff of tossing out things, so I'm going to select this folder. Yeah. Yeah, why not? So what this will take about what, one minute. Uh-oh, what happened now? It's a never-ending battle with software these days. Well, then I can't show you. I've got some other issue. Damn it. Okay. It never ends. And I'm not so good at this to begin with, but I'm good at algorithms, but coding is not my specialty. So at least it brought up this part of it. That's good. So what it's doing is what I just said I was going to do. I'm selecting stars that have a certain good characteristics for plate solve stars, blah, blah, blah. There they are. There were something like 100. And then I refit those plate solve stars, in this case to third order. That's this. It has 10 coefficients in the x direction and 10 coefficients in the y direction. It used 109 stars, and they were weighted as 1 over the square root of the standard error in the mean position. And I found that that weighting is quite effective, kind of giving me the best results. And I'm not sure I can justify that. So this is an interesting issue of how to weight things, but I certainly can't justify it at this moment in time. I have some ideas, but we'll see. So nonetheless, if you don't weight it at all, you don't get a drastically different result. A little, few percent difference. But I found that the overall fit error was 36 in this case for this image that I refit. It was 36 milliarc seconds. This one was 35, 35, et cetera, 37. They're all very similar. And so I started to ask myself why this is not noise-like behavior at all. Noise-like behavior would have much greater variation over 100 plate solve stars. So I thought maybe I didn't have the proper motion right. So I checked it, and I found out that this epoch does in fact do the best job. This is the epoch at which time the image was taken. It does in fact minimize the fit error at exactly the end of May 2021. So that obviously worked. And what I realized is that what's not in here is the parallax error, which was the reason that, going back to the beginning here, the reason I needed to calculate the parallax. And I haven't put it in, but now the job is to put in the Gaia parallax and to see if by the way, I should really explain what I mean by this number. Sorry. This number is the RMS distance between the centroid of the image star and the Gaia position in the Gaia catalog. So if everything were perfect, this would be down into the couple of milli-arcsecond errors, because we know the noise behavior is maybe 5 milli-arcseconds, but this is 30 or 35. So the only thing left is some kind of systematic error that I don't understand, or it's parallax, right? So the next job is to put in parallax and see if this drops rather dramatically. And if it doesn't, well, we sit around and scratch our belly buttons for a minute and try to figure out why.
Quick question on this. Could
Yeah.
you explain, you said the behavior hovering around 30 milliarcseconds is not noise-like. Noise-like, you would expect it to vary from like what to what?
Yeah, well, right. So it's more at this moment an intuitive statement based on a lot of experience with this kind of stuff. So I can't justify that statement in any kind of scientific or mathematical way. But I know that you would not expect every image to be around 35 milliarcsecond. Somebody needs to mute their.
Pat, can you get somebody to mute themselves?
Ah, good. So, yeah, so that's the idea here. I believe, or believe is always a bad word in science. My conjecture is that this is due to parallax issue. So that's why the next step is to put in Hagen's formula, code it up. And to do that, I need to actually have the parallax. So this goes into catalog management and a bunch of stuff. When I made the Gaia catalog that I'm using for plate solving, I didn't include parallax because I was stupid. Okay. I was only thinking about using it for, plate solving, and who on earth is going to want the position of a star to better than, 30 milliarc seconds? Well, me. So I have to go back and I actually have to dig out of the big Gaia catalog, the parallax, and put it into a supplemental catalog, because I want all of you to be able to do this on your own, right? So now I have a bunch of catalog work to do. I've got it's a bit of a job. So before I can actually put parallax into this calculation, in other words, to remove it from the Gaia position and get back to, go from heliocentric Gaia coordinates to heliocentric plus parallax. That's called the topocentric. No, it's not. It's called the geocentric. It's called the geocentric location of the object. So there's heliocentric, which should be obvious. There's geocentric, and that's if you're at the center of the Earth. And then there's topocentric, which is where you are on the Earth. Obviously makes a difference, like if you're measuring the position of Mars, because the Earth's radius is whatever it is, 4,000 miles or so. So Mars is close enough that you can have a huge error if you don't take into account that you're somewhere on the surface of the Earth. But for measuring stars, it's micro arcsecond or something. It's not important. Not yet. It will be someday. We're very good at this stuff. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah, and one follow-up, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer. I assume you are making this change based on the mean Julian date of the observation. Like, you don't have to correct each image separately right? Yeah,
I mean, we could, but again, that's got to be a tiny correction to a
yeah, I would
already
assume.
small. It's already a small correction, but that's got to be truly tiny, right?
Yeah,
It's how much
Yeah.
the Earth moved relative to the star, relative to the heliocentric position. Yeah, probably. I think we could justify not doing that.
yeah. I assumed you wanted to make sure. Yeah.
A couple comments. One is that I think Hagen was correct on his definition of parallax. It's the.
Is it the half angle?
Yeah, I can show you a picture if that matters, but I think, yeah, it's the half angle. Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
that's great. You guys are good. Hagen gets full credit.
He gets full credit now.
And I get
Thank you.
half credit.
The other one is that having used parallax out of Gaia somewhat for double stars, there's on some of these, there's a very substantial error bar. And I'm not sure
Yeah.
how you're going to take that into account. I mean, it can be really substantial. And you may want to take that when you're building your database. You may want to look at that error as well and maybe throw out some of the stars. I'm not sure why it's so. Now, obviously, when you're very far off, and then the error is large, but there are some that are close that are quite a large error.
I looked into this, and the errors are on the order of sub-milli-arc second.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so the average error was something like 0.8 milli-arc seconds. I mean, it's certainly not zero, but
Yeah.
I mean, you do the best you can. So you got to remove, the next step is to remove it. If we don't remove it, every star is going to have looks like it's going to have a orbital period of 1 year.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, I wanted to ask also, with this development, where does this put speckle? Because
Well, speckle is
couldn't you use this technique to replace speckle? I mean, we're talking.
Oh, no.
No?
Speckle is a direct measurement of the position of the double star. And this is a measurement, this is a long-term project that's trying to find some, maybe unusual stuff that's way below the resolution. Or, the separation is much smaller than the resolution that we can get pretty much with any telescope anywhere.
But you're measuring the position of the two stars quite accurately. Can't you convert that separation and position angle?
Well, that's also quite a difficult path. You have to. Russ, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I do. Hey, babe, let me talk for just a minute here.
Wait, Meryl, can you hold on just a second?
Yeah, so I've thought about this, and I think if you get a case where you get speckle to calibrate what the coefficient is between, because when you do the photocenter, it's going to reduce it by some thing. But if you get both speckle and photocenter a single time, then that kind of calibrates future photocenter ones. And kind of following up on Pat here, it may be easier to do the photocenter things on some objects, so it may supplement, or with calibration, maybe even replace speckle, because it may allow small telescopes to do what only large telescopes could formerly do.
Can I make a comment about that too? After the last meeting or the previous one, I think I recommended a star for observation that was a known double star with an orbit and so on as a sort of a sanity check. But thinking about it, the delta magnitude was only about 2 magnitudes. And I think that would be one of the first stars thrown out of the plate sol, because even though the stars are close, they're going to look somewhat like, a racetrack star instead of a single star. They might be. And
Rick,
the
I'm
other
not-
thing is Speckle has limitations on the dynamic range, the difference in magnitude between the two stars. Yeah, it's really difficult to measure anything that's more than about 4 or 5 magnitudes different. Whereas this plate solve really shines as things get more and more different, because the bright star looks like a single star now. And it doesn't have that contamination of a nearby neighbor. So they're kind of complementary, I think. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I don't think that binary that I suggested would be a very good candidate after all. Because I think it'll get thrown out in the first place.
Calay's got a good comment in here too about the database that in the chat. I don't know, Dave, are you going to try to use data release 3 or?
Well, yeah, I'd love to, but you know, it's another whole interesting endeavor, right? I would love to find a way. I mean, there must be a way to do this. What I need to do is to just be able to download the Gaia DR3 info for the image area in question. So I'd love to be able to automatically go to the web, tell Vizier or whatever tool to extract the stars in, you know, that area and send back the pertinent information. And I haven't looked into that. That's what?
I can do that. I can help with that. I can do that via Python.
There's a query tool right in Gaia that you can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it has to all be done automatically, Pat. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want the user to have to touch anything. I want it to just, you know, magically appear. So if you can help me do that, I mean, that's a way to solve
do
it.
that, but only in Python. And I know you use something.
I use Visual Studio, which is, you know, C# and Visual Basic and so forth.
I wonder if there's got to be a way to hook those things up somehow.
Yeah, well, we need some programming help. I know Sophia has offered to take a look at that problem. I don't know what to do. I'm not a software guy. You know, I'm not a programmer kind of person. So I haven't kept up with all of the latest. What I need basically is a CSV file that kind of magically appears. If I give center coordinates in RA and DEC in a field size, I want a CSV file to appear that contains all of the Gaia DR3 info that is available for that collection of stars. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, we've got to get this together somehow. I
If you
do that, but like sort of only in my own, you know, I mean, I can do it online in a collaboratory, but that's why I would love this to run online, because then, as I've ranted at length before, then I'm able to have students do it who have different kinds of different kinds of platforms. But it would just be
Here's the manual query, and you can submit, but it also, why can't I go back here? Let me get back. I'll stop this. There's also a straight download. And I think they have tools just to download directly to your software, and you could write to it. At any rate, you can select.
there's probably an XML interface or
Exactly.
some kind of an interface.
Exactly. If you go to this site, it will open up, and here's download, direct download. I assume that's what you've been going to, but here you got DR3. Anyway, I think there is, like you say, an XML approach. Yeah.
Well, this is a collaborative effort. And Hagen has provided a very nice input to this effort. So somebody else figure out for me how to get that information from DR3, early DR3, we'll call it.
You just need a way for a Python script to run from the Visual Studio.
Yeah, so I can write XML a bit. I can write an HTML query if that is what it needs. Just so next week, people come with ideas. I mean, I have a limited ability to program stuff like an XML query or a HTML.
Would something like that work?
I can do stuff like that, yes. So I can go query a website with a query string and wait for return and so forth. So if you figure out for me how to do that, then I'll give it a try, or you can give it a try yourself within Visual Studio if you know how to, Visual Studio is all free. So you can download the IDE and try it yourself. It's pretty super simple for young people.
What fields do you need from EDR3? Proper motion, parallax, RA deck?
Basically everything, including the errors. I like to have all of the fields. I don't need the fields that have to do with satellite scans and scan directions and scan statistics. But there's I use probably 150 bytes out of the 1,000 bytes of DR2 that's available in DR2.
Do you want like GMAG and BMAG?
Oh yeah,
all that
everything
stuff.
everything you can get except for the kind of the esoteric stuff that the scientists use to evaluate the quality of the information.
Yeah. No, I can make CSV files given an RA and deck via Python, but so I could do the myPythonScript.py part. But I don't know how to incorporate that. It sounds like Nathan knows how to incorporate that into Visual Studio.
Oh no, I just looked up how to run a Python script from Visual Studio.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's the part I can't help with, but I could definitely do the Python, the myPythonScript.py part.
Yeah, there's if you go to that link, they've got the help file and they've got a lot of stuff on demos and tutorials on how to extract data and extract data. I'm just looking at it. Anyway, there's this, and it talks about AstroQuery as it's the top of the list.
Yeah, that's what I use.
Yeah, so I may actually switch directions here. Maybe a more favorable direction is to stop using my Gaia catalog and start using a query, a web query to the appropriate, region of space that I'm interested in. Get that information into, query it, wait for it to come back, process it, and then use that information, because then we could always switch that web interface to the latest, when DR4 comes out or whatever, we can, always have the latest information. It totally makes sense to me. So somebody, or, a couple of you or whatever, work on how that actually works and how you program up the query string and show that it works, for yourself in Python or whatever tool you like to use. Or really, you could download the IDE for Visual Studio, all free, and give it a whack in there.
Does it run on Mac or is that?
I don't know. It's a Microsoft product, so probably not. You're handy. I'm sorry, Kelly. You got a severe handicap.
Well, that's the thing is that so do many of my students, which is why I'm like on this.
Microsoft does actually have a Mac version of Visual Studio 2019.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Great. And that's what I use. I use 2019. So
Okay.
we'll be talking at least something like the same language. It may be a different dialect, but okay.
Dave,
To go. I should go soon too as well, but I think we have our marching orders.
There's also a Python IDE for Visual Studio.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay. What does IDE mean?
Integrated development and integrated development environment.
Okay.
Dave,
It's a
one quick
beautiful
question.
thing. It's one of the only things that Microsoft did that really is great. I mean, I think you can see the programming, the people who love programming wrote the IDE.
A quick question, are the Gaia parameters that you need the same ones that are the output of the GDS program, the search program?
No.
They're not the
Well,
same ones.
Well, there's yes and no. But first of all, it's DR3, right?
Well, other than that, but
Um,
a lot of the
yeah, you're right, Rick. I think it's all there, right? In
a lot of the EDR3 is the same pattern, same parameters as DR2.
right. Okay, so
Radio velocity, which makes me crazy.
what I'm going to do is to
It's a placeholder.
the placeholder. Yeah.
They had the field name in EDR3 is DR2 radial velocity, and I
Right.
guess that's good because they want to make sure you know it's not updated from DR2, but like it broke everything. It's going to break everything again when they change it back. Whatever. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. When you deal with a new catalog, you always deal with new stuff you've got to handle within the. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is to wait for this ability to query the catalog before I actually go further, because it makes total sense to fit the centroid positions to the Gaia DR3 info, including Parallax. In the meantime, I'll code up the Parallax correction and we'll go in that direction, I think. So we'll wait for next week to see what you guys can provide.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's good plan. Yeah.
Anybody want to see some photos from our trip around California?
Sure.
Sure, yeah.
No, I mean, you don't have to. If you, the totally switch subjects. Right. Let me find them. I'm a bit tired today.
Scott probably has some too. Where are you now, Scott?
You're getting old.
Well, yeah, I'm still on the road. I will be for another week. We did the Sierras. That's last week. We were just coming down from 10,000 feet with no cell phone, no internet coverage. And when I tried to log on, and it didn't work so good driving down the road. But we went last week. We were in Oregon for Eastern Oregon for most of the week, and then now we're in Vancouver, Washington, and heading to Seattle.
Wow.
By next week, I may be back in San Diego. We'll see.
Okay.
So it's been hot up there this week, huh?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it was 110 in Eastern Oregon last week, and I've got a picture to prove it, a picture of the thermometer to prove it. So
Can you believe it was 45 Celsius in Vancouver? My
Jeez.
God.
yeah.
I mean, well, that's
No,
another
thank you.
subject, huh? So this is really brief. I'll just leaf through these. This is from the White Mountains, looking back at the Sierra Nevada, the High Sierra.
Yeah, that's where we were.
And
Pretty much.
that's a bristlecone pine. And it's pine cone. They're very beautiful trees. They're like bottle brushes. That's where the name comes from. There's a bristlecone pine. These are the oldest, if you don't know what they are, they're the oldest living creatures, I think, on the planet that we've found so far, as much as nearly 5,000 years old. So they've been around a while, and they're beautiful. There's a grove. This is part of the Methuselah Grove, which is where the oldest tree that they found so far.
Did
They
they
don't
tell
tell
you
you
which
where
tree
it
it was?
They don't tell you which tree it is for
For
obvious
hiding it.
reasons. Everybody would want a souvenir, right? Then there would be no tree anymore.
Yeah.
This is Mono Lake, the tufas at Mono Lake, the Sierras in the background. The tufas are incredibly beautiful. The water has brine shrimp. It has no fish at all. It's so salty that fish can't live in it. But it has brine shrimp, which are these little tiny pink things. They're beautiful. More tufas. This is a volcanic crater called the Panum crater. It's only 600 feet high, so it's not a difficult walk. It's about a mile in diameter. The lava came up, and the saturated groundwater turned into superheated steam and blew out a big crater. And then in the middle of that, the lava dome came up and pushed its way up, and it solidified so fast that it turned much of it into obsidian. And it's just like the core is a mountain of obsidian. Very beautiful. Looking back at Mono Lake from the crater. Then we went to Bodie, California. I don't know if you have ever been to Bodie. Bodie's an old gold mining town. First prospected in like 1859. Big town, grew up. Eventually kind of collapsed around 1920, 1910 to 1920. Left a bunch of really beautiful old buildings. Like there's many like this, an old house. I like this photo. This was this was the hotel. This was like the Bodie Hotel or something. Hotel Bodie. And there's something I do not understand about this photo. I'm here, I took the picture, but there's no sign of me taking a picture with a camera. I honestly don't understand it. It's
Poltergeist.
yes. What happened? I don't really have how did that, how can you, I actually took this picture, swear to God. I don't know how that happened, but really weird. Car camping is great. That's my wife, Anna. She's from Colombia.
Did you take that picture around on tripod?
This picture,
Yeah.
handheld with my iPhone.
Huh.
I don't understand, totally cannot understand this picture. There's me with my hat, with my green t-shirt that I had on, with my cutoffs, and there's two hands there, I guess. I don't know how to interpret this damn thing. Okay, so, I guess ghost towns have some mystery attached to them still.
Because I was gonna say if it was if you had it on a tripod, it could be due to a rolling shutter, but
Yeah,
that's
it's
mysterious.
weird. This is pretty strange. I don't know what to make of it, but it's kind of an interesting photograph anyway. Does anybody know where this is?
That's
No,
that's
we've
not
never,
Shasta, is it?
huh?
That's not Shasta, is it?
Yeah, it's Mount Shasta.
Oh, wow.
Incredibly beautiful place. I mean, it's kind of magic. It's really a beautiful place. Shasta trees.
Snow is almost gone. I've never seen it with no snow left.
I know, it's frightening, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've never seen it without snow either, but this early in the season, there's hardly any snow. This is usually like totally covered with snow this time of year. I think we're in big trouble, but who knows?
Yeah.
I'm not an expert. Then we drove to Crescent City, which is in the upper northwest corner of California. We actually had to drive through Oregon, 50 miles or something to get there. You kind of go over the top. And this place had the best fish and chips I've ever had in my life. This was halibut that was caught that morning.
Oh, boy.
And unbelievable. I can't tell you. That's also Crescent City.
Nothing
Then we
like
went
really
to-
fresh fish.
Then we went to the redwoods, the coastal redwoods. As you know, there are 3 types of redwoods. 2 are coastal and 1 is the sequoias in the Sierra Nevada. These are the giant coastal redwoods. The tallest tree in the coastal redwoods is 115 meters high, has a diameter of 28 feet, and is roughly 3,000 years old. It's an unbelievable drive. North of Eureka, between Eureka and Crescent City. It's impossible to take a photograph that gives you any sense of what these things look like. I tried many different ways. There's one way. I'm right at the base of a big tree and I pointed the camera, basically, I got down on my back and pointed the camera straight up. This is another technique. This is a panorama. The iPhone, you can do a panorama. If you turn it vertically, you can go up like this. So this is a panorama from the ground up. And that's it. It's impossible to get a feeling for the scale of it. I hope
Very
we
nice.
don't destroy, everything on the planet by burning fossil fuels. There's a lot of great, beautiful things out there.
Those are amazing photos. I especially like the one of the hotel with the mystery. Not because of the mystery though, just because the picture is so cool.
I don't have any idea. I'm going to look at the damn thing and try to figure out what happened, but I really don't understand it. Okay.
Yeah.
Some things in life you just have to pass on. Yeah.
You're gonna have to plate solve it for the.
Let's get Hagen back. Maybe he can figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll
All
see you
right.
next week then, huh?
Yeah, sounds good.
See you guys next week. Hopefully I'll be back in
Same
California.
time, same place. See you guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.